Jazz. A rich language filled with rhythm, creativity, and innovation. And I'm not even talking about the music. Jazz musicians literally speak their own language on and off the bandstand. The casual vernacular of your average jazz musician is a fascinating amalgam of metaphors, nicknames, and slang words, many of which have existed since the 1940s. The word jazz itself, basically a slang word, has come in many iterations. Many believe that it came from a word jazzum, which itself came from a word jism. Anyway, here are some of the more interesting jazz slang terms that I've heard or used or encountered over the years and what they mean. First, a disclaimer. Tastes tend to be very regional. Like music, language will differ from place to place. That means one cat's bread might be another cat's coin, depending on what city you live in. These are words I've heard mostly in and around Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Let's start out with the most obvious word, bad. Bad is good. To tell someone that they are bad in jazz is a compliment.
Man, the way he got into the 8th bar of the blues, bad.
To call someone a bad is tantamount to saying your musical acumen is of the highest level. You bad. Similar adjectives include burnin', smokin', and killin'. Baby, this is a term of endearment. It can apply to anyone. It's non-gender specific. The same place you would use dude or buddy, only hipper.
Hey man, hey baby, how's it going?
Bag. This one has more than one meaning. The first is as a noun. It can be a genre or a niche, as in pop music just isn't my bag. Or it can be the act of getting rid of something, as in bag the mute, nobody can hear you. Blow. Don't go there. This means to take a solo, as in, can I blow on this tune? It also represents an encouraging command that you might get from your fellow musicians or from the audience, as in blow, blow. Similarly, listen for phrases like blow your horn, speak, preach, take your time, tell your story, go on. These are good things. Box. This noun is a nickname basically for a guitar.
So I recently dropped some dough on a new box at the music store.
But I've also heard it applied to almost any other instrument at times, including the more popular term axe. Cat is a time-honored pronoun in jazz.
Man, cats be swinging.
Cat can take the place of him, her, or them, as in, that cat owes me money. It can also be meant in a complimentary fashion, as in, he is one of the cats.
The cats were hitting hard tonight.
In jazz, you're either aspiring to be a cat or you are a cat. Channel. This is a musical term that means the bridge of the tune. I've also heard it referred to as the release. Chops. This is a very popular one. This is having a high level of technical ability on your instrument. So being able to play fast or high or whatever constitutes having some level of virtuosity means that you have chops. Clams. Clams are wrong notes that you play when you're soloing or reading music, as in, that solo I just played was full of clams. I've also heard them referred to as clinkers or clunkers. While we're on the subject, the act of playing poorly is also known as scuffling or the dreaded folding.
He folded so hard on that tune.
Okay, now we get to the most popular subject as far as jazz lingo goes. That's money. And believe me when I tell you that there are more nicknames for money and getting paid than anything else. Let's start with coin, cake, bread, scratch, cheese, cheddar, digit,
So what's the digit on the gig tonight?
ducats,
Hey, brother, where my ducats at, man? Don't make me have to cut your ass, you dig?
jelly,
What's the jelly?
and paper. Also, the amounts of money have nicknames as well. I played my first New Year's Eve gig when I was 17 years old, and the band leader on the phone told me that the gig paid 2 bills, and I hung up not knowing how much money I was gonna make. A bill or a buck is $100. Nowadays, someone might say to you the gig pays $1.25, which means you're gonna make $125. We can also pair the money word with another descriptor, like saying the bread is light means that the gig isn't really paying a lot of money, or saying
I got a lot of money out on the street.
which means one or more people I've played with owes me an amount of money for a gig or gigs. Cop. Musically speaking, when we use this word, it means to copy in the style of or imitate, as in cop an elven feel on the channel, which translates to play a 12/8 groove in the style of drummer Elvin Jones when we get to the bridge. Dark. This adjective is used to describe someone who's angry, quiet, aloof. It also means to express disapproval of, as in John got dark on the food tonight. I've also heard consistently dark individuals referred to as Dark Man or Prince of Darkness. This is one of my favorites. Dig. The verb means to like, to approve of something.
Man, I dig your sound, and you sound crushing.
But the interjection can be magical. As in, yo, I got this new live train record that just came out.
Dig.
Drag. This is a musical term as a verb, which means to slow down, but when we use it as a noun, we can express our disapproval, as in, this gig is a drag. It can also be substituted with the phrase, the blues.
If you're driving in your car, somebody rear-ends you and you're telling your friend about it later, you say, man, I was at this light, somebody rear-ended me. You say, man, that's the blues. And it is the blues. You dig?
Float is a musical term that means to avoid playing straight quarter note time. It's mostly applicable to rhythm sections, and I've also heard the words stroll and skate used in the same way. Gig. Most of us know this one. It can be a job or the act of performing that job. As in a day job, that can be a day gig, but most often we associate this with the act of playing music and getting paid money for it. Synonymous with the word hit, we can use it on a single job basis, as in, I've got a gig at the Blue Note tonight. Or we can use it in reference to winning a job with a much more famous musician, like she got the gig with Pat Metheny. The hang.
Oh, that was a great hang with my partners last night. We had a wonderful time, and we was hanging tough.
There's 2 meanings for this one. The first is the verb, which means to keep up with on a gig, as in he didn't hang. The noun denotes the affability of the environment on a jazz gig, how well everyone gets along and how social everyone is when the band isn't playing, i.e., the music was okay, but the hang was great. Head. In musical terms, the head is the melody of the song. This is the jumping off point for our improvisations. We start with the head and we come back to it after solos. Heat. This is just solo space. As in, can I get some heat on this one? Hip, which is coming from the word hep, which basically means to be cool, to be an aficionado, to be in the know about jazz, also has the meaning of just knowing something or being familiar with it, as in, are you hip to the train bridge of body and soul? Home. This is a musical term that you'll hear on the bandstand. This means to go back to the beginning of the tune in anticipation of ending it. Go home. Jam. This means to play in an unplanned and often unorganized way for no money. Jam sessions often bring together disparate musicians for the purposes of showing off for each other and for the audience. Jive. Webster's dictionary says that jive means deceitful or worthless. That's pretty much right. This is not a compliment.
Man, this cat is jive.
Accordingly, when a musician is jiving, they're faking their way through a tune without really knowing it. Also, calling someone a jive-ass is like the highest level of jiveness you can attain. Left. This one can be musical or non-musical. Going left means doing something really unexpected and often jarring. Musically, it's associated with avant-garde playing or techniques, as in, Ben really went left on that solo. The word out can also be substituted here. Once in, once out. This is a pre-tune on the bandstand direction that's given before the count off to indicate that the melody of the song is only going to be played once before the solos happen, and after the solos are over, it will only be played once again. This would fall under the same category as other pre-song directions like all skate.
We're gonna play a blues now. It's an all skate situation. Everybody plays a solo.
Sad. This one describes a lack of playing ability. It's the opposite of bad. Let's say someone is still learning how to play.
Like how Miles would say, that is sad.
Sad musicians are often given monikers like the word hack, and sad is interchangeable with the word weak. Sears and Roebuck. This one is an old one. When I was a kid growing up learning how to play, playing mostly tunes I didn't know, and I was following the piano player, often when we get to the bridge, he'd lean over and whisper to me, Sears and Roebuck. This meant one of many standard bridges that you would encounter on a tune in the Great American Songbook. Most often they would go from like the 4 chord to a dominant 2. Think Gershwin or Cole Porter. Sears and Roebuck was an old department store. They sold everything. Standard fare clothing, appliances, everything you expected was there. So when I heard someone say Sears and Roebuck, it usually meant play where you think it's gonna go. Scene. This is the community of jazz musicians in whatever city you live in. To be on the scene means you're out in your city playing jazz gigs and people know who you are. Shed. The verb means to practice, but the noun is the place that you go to practice.
So as a noun, let's go to the shed. As a verb, you need to shed.
It's short for woodshed, which means going to a solitary place to practice for an extended period of time. When you hear a musician say, "You've been in the shed," what it means is, I can hear that you're playing better. You must have spent more time practicing than usual. Sides. Sides are albums. They're called sides because they come from record albums, which had 2 sides to play. Usually getting sides has to do with the acquisition of the classic jazz albums. To sit in. This is to participate as a guest in someone else's gig for free. Now this is different from a jam because this is by invitation only and it tends to be more thoughtful than jamming. The person sitting in is usually offered the same rights, musicality, and attention as the host band, oftentimes even more. Skins. Skins are drums. Society gig. I'm not sure that these exist anymore, but when I was growing up, we used to have gigs where you had to dress formally and they were gonna pay a lot of money. Also known as club dates or GB gigs for general business. These gigs would involve hours of music you would never otherwise listen to, playing for mostly millionaires. Square. This one means uncool, uncouth, unhip, without swing. Which brings us to swing. Colloquially, the feeling of groove, a propulsive beat that mostly holds tempo and implies subdivision. It can also denote the act of playing 4/4 quarter note time. The verb to swing refers to this act, as in Tom is swinging tonight, or as an adverb, as in Tom Solo swung hard, or even as a noun, as in Tom brought the swing tonight. Similar terms include time, pocket, spang-a-lang, or to tip.
That we just got done playing was so tippin', it felt amazing.
Tag. This is a musical term that means to go back and repeat a part of the tune before it ends. It could sometimes involve playing a turnaround or a cycle multiple times. Just think, it's not over yet, let's tag the last 4 bars. Train wreck, musical term. Fatal error, a fatal error on the bandstand that causes multiple musicians to stop playing. Actually, this is a rare occurrence, and more often than not, you'll hear musicians talking about how they messed something up, but they avoided a train wreck. Vibe. This is one of my favorites. As a noun, it refers to an atmosphere, a feeling, as in the room had a great vibe. But curiously, the verb version is very negative. To vibe someone is akin to being very curt or rude to them. A common practice at jam sessions, when a musician doesn't talk to you or sends negative thoughts your way, they're vibing you.
I went to that session, but cats were kind of dark. They were vibing.
And that's just a teeny tiny slice of jazz words. What's your favorite jazz word? Let me know in the comments, and please tell me where you're from as well. I want to thank Con Alma and the wonderful jazz musicians in Pittsburgh and the surrounding areas for helping me put this video together. Whatever language you speak, please keep listening to the music, keep playing the music, keep supporting live music, and by all means, find your tribe wherever you call home.